Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So in today's Horn of Africa update, covering the continued conflict inside of Ethiopia and the Tigray region, heavy and continued fighting continues in Oromia. The Oromo Liberation Army continues operations against the Ethiopian federal government. We continue to hear that Ethiopian forces are being supported by Eritrean forces, not just inside of the Tigray region, where the brunt of the Eritrean army has been positioned in northern Tigray, but elements of the Eritrean army are in fact assisting the Ethiopian army in internal matters, especially regarding its operation against the Oromo Liberation Army. But activity in terms of fairly significant fighting continues with the Oromo Liberation Army targeting smaller bases, convoys, and infrastructure sites of the Ethiopian army. Inside of the Tigray region, there has been a recent lull in fighting. There was a several-week probing operation conducted by the Eritrean army in conjunction, to a lesser extent, with the Ethiopian army in an attempt to probe inside of central Tigray. That was essentially not successful. These forces have ceased its advance into central Tigray. It was never an advance in force into central Tigray per se, but we did see the use of multi-role fighter bombers to include the possible use of chemical weapons utilized by Eritrean forces, dropping chemical munitions against Tigray civilians and possible military targets. We believe that these munitions, these chemical munitions that were being used by the Eritrean army, were blister agents or chlorine gas or mustard agents. These were not nerve agents, but again, a blister type of agent that is that can be manufactured by the capabilities that exist inside of Eritrea. But fighting continues. The Tigrayan Defense Force still maintain hold of at least 50% plus of the Tigray region. The major cities in the north, obviously, are occupied by Eritrean forces, and towards the south, Mekelle, Ethiopian forces continue to occupy Mekelle and its environs, with Eritrean forces Tigrayan forces with continue its defensive footing inside of central Tigray, while continuing some of its operations south towards the Amhara region, in other areas as well inside of the Tigray region. But there would appear to be a bit of a lull in fighting on both sides. Both sides have been engaged in fairly strenuous combat for many months now. And having these sorts of lulls is common inside of warfare. Again, the Tigrayan Defense Force's goal is simply not to lose, but to continue a protracted conflict, wearing down the Eritrean forces, wearing down the Ethiopian forces, while at the same time achieving victories within the political scope of the conflict. Now, in terms of a possible political victory, especially on the international stage, the Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, being led by Isaias Afwerki, the despotic regime in Eritrea, plan to go ahead with June 21st elections inside of Ethiopia. Now, the problem with this is obviously you cannot have accurate elections inside of the Tigray region, so that region will not be part of the democratic process. The Oromia regions are boycotting the election process. So the largest group of people inside of Ethiopia will probably not be partaking in these elections. And you can see these elections starting to spin towards a Eritrean Amhara regional power base to be able to articulate some sort of electoral parliamentary victory. And unfortunately for the Oromo people, the Tigray people, and many other peoples inside of Ethiopia, that is going to not work. It is going to be seen as a fraudulent election process, and it will further push Ethiopia towards a major internal civil conflict. Again, we see many of the same despotic strategies being used inside of Eritrea now being used inside of Ethiopia. And when you have such a close relationship, again, and I've talked about this before, between Abiy Ahmed, the Prosperity Party, and Isaias Afwerki, this is what you are going to get. Eritrea is not a democracy. But right now, it is Ethiopia's, in terms of Abiy Ahmed and the Prosperity Party's, #1 ally. And it influences, and when I mean it, I mean Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki, influences the Ethiopian politic. And that is what is occurring. Ethiopia is slowly taking on the form of the despotic regime inside of Eritrea. And we are seeing the use, or the increased use, of hard military power, the like of which is being used along the border of Sudan against the Oromia region, against the Tigray region. Remember, Eritrea has engaged in conflict with basically all of its neighbors and continue to be a threat to the region. And Ethiopia would appear to be, under the leadership of Abiy Ahmed, under the rule of Isaias Afwerki, seem to be transitioning to what Eritrea looks like in the Horn of Africa region. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.